Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Confidently in Charge. I am your hostess, Allison KT, and I am so excited today to be chatting with a friend of mine that I've met. I mean, it blows my mind to think that we've just met in 2020, but 2020 felt like it was like 100 years, so it makes sense. But I met Nicole, and Nicole Tremaglio is a brand architect who works with fitness and lifestyle brands and really just is like your little fingerprint on the pulse of what's happening in the fitness industry. And she's got, the funniest reels, the cutest, most exciting newsletters that come through. She's the reason that I have TikTok on my phone. And I've really appreciated Nicole's just realness and authenticity to be who she is and launch a business amidst this pandemic and, just really pivoting and rolling with everything that's happened. So Nicole, I'm so excited to welcome you to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let us dive in to sort of your journey to entrepreneurship. So, did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or how have you kind of found yourself in this role of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I always knew that I wanted to do something creative and
Mm-hmm.
something expressive. And my main values have to do a lot with self expression and transparency and giving myself the permission to do what I truly and intuitively also feel like, it's what I'm meant to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, I originally thought that I would be a dancer, that would be my career, and I
Mm.
took the safe route that was the fashion industry. So I worked in retail management, and then finally corporate for some pretty large fashion brands,
Mm-hmm.
and just realized, and now I say all the time, I loved chasing the drama of a career path that was not meant for me.
Mm.
It seems like such a good idea to take the pragmatic route or what is seemingly the most financially stable option.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I realized too that, um, the fashion industry is not somewhere that you want to get into if you're looking for, quick money. It's
Mm-hmm.
more of something that people pursue for creative reasons, or just a lot of it starts as a fascination that
Mm-hmm.
came somewhere from within our culture,
Mm-hmm.
especially any kind of consumerism, I think really um, just manifests in the form of the fashion industry. Like your first
Mm-hmm.
semester at college or like at orientation when you sit down and everyone says, okay, why did you choose the fashion major? Half the
Mm-hmm.
people said, well, I love shopping. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, if I
Mm-hmm.
hear one more person say that they love shopping and that's why they chose their entire career trajectory, I'm going to lose
Mm-hmm.
it. And I think that was
Mm-hmm.
the first time that I felt like, okay, this is not what I'm really
Yeah.
meant to be doing. These are not really my people. And even
Mhm.
though I've had a lot of great friends and a few mentors here and there, who really were people that I could look up to in my industry, I ultimately always just felt as though it was out of alignment, like something
Mhm.
always felt off. And I
Mhm.
could never really explain it because when you're doing what you are so-called supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
getting the paycheck, doing the 9 to 5, it seems like you fulfilled all of these societal expectations. So why are you still not happy?
Yes. Oh, I see that so often with clients who talk about like, oh, I don't know if this is the right path for me and I want to step away, but this is what the world tells me I need to get. Like this, I need to strive for the leadership position. I need to strive for the corner office and the bigger salary and the full team. And it's like, I don't know. Like my version of that was like, oh, I need to go work in sales and marketing.
Mhm.
I thought like that's what you do after college. You go get a marketing job, and like that's where you start. And yeah, I completely hear that, like, this is not authentic. This is not what I want. So how, okay, yeah, let's clue everyone in on when did your business start? Like when did you transition to entrepreneurship, and like what was kind of the final straw? Like what were you like, okay, I'm done. I'm transitioning to being my own boss now.
Yeah, about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, I wanted to take my fitness and wellness events platform that I had. I would host speaking panels and workshops and dance
Mm,
classes, and I wanted to transform that into a business. I think when I hired outside help, whether that be for the mindset or for photography or just something to feel like, okay, we need to make it into a real thing. We need to legitimize this and actually
mhm,
take some actions instead of just thinking about wanting to be somewhere else, actually taking the steps to get there, no matter how micro they may seem at the time.
mhm,
So I
mhm,
started taking those steps about a year ago. And then in March, I finally left corporate. And then a
mhm.
week later, New York City was effectively shut down.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, it was very interesting because my original business idea, I mean, it's already pivoted twice,
Mhm,
because my thought was to do instructional design for studios, like training
mm,
guides and manuals and essentially tools that you could give employees so that they were more invested in their jobs. Because
mhm,
fitness has this reputation where, oh, you're just a personal trainer, oh, you're just a group exercise instructor. And it's like, well, if
mhm,
I like fashion, why can't I work in fashion? If I like marketing, why can't I work in marketing?
mhm.
And if I like fitness, why is that not considered a
Right.
viable career path? I felt
Mhm,
as though that track ran parallel to dance. And having
mhm,
heard that narrative told to me so many times, dance is not an acceptable career path.
mhm,
I took the actions that other people wanted me to, and I believed them when they said that, and deep down I just knew that it was so not true.
mhm,
So being able to advance the conversation in an industry that's still seen as something that's kind of fickle and not something that people want to go to college so that they
mhm,
can get a degree in and pursue it as a career, but it's like,
mhm.
who says we all have to take that path anyway? That's the
Right.
first problem. um
Yeah.
but yeah, but I couldn't work in person with studios because they shut
Mm,
down, and
mhm,
they are still closed to this day. There are
mhm,
a few loopholes, some gyms are open and whatnot,
mhm,
but yeah, working in real life was not an option anymore. And
mhm,
also the whole employee enrichment, cultural resonance kind of side of things, that became a nice to have. And so
mhm.
I had to not only become a full-time entrepreneur, but then also learn to pivot, like practically before the second I got on the stage, I already had to
Mhm,
get moving, um,
mhm,
so that I could meet people where they were once COVID
mhm.
hit.
Oh my gosh. That's wild. Like you finally, you get the power and the energy, like, okay, I'm planting my flag, I'm going to do this thing. And then immediately met with the like, okay, well, it's going to look a little different. Kind of like that boggles my mind to come through that. And so, I'm just curious, because a lot of people talk about, really becoming entrepreneurs to be their own boss,
Mhm.
and like that being a big draw for it. And often, we don't necessarily realize everything that entails. But you're sort of on that journey in the throes of quarantine, and like, you know, I feel like you've been a few different places during quarantine. And so could you say a little bit about kind of your journey with becoming your own boss and like living into that entrepreneurship amidst the pandemic with the pivots and everything?
Absolutely. You always have to give yourself grace, first off,
Mm,
because no matter what situation you were in 2020, everyone had to deal with some kind of major life change or disruption
Mhm.
to their previous lifestyle. And in the grand scheme of things, I'm a very lucky person, but at the same time, I still felt hit really hard. Like I was always chasing a moving target. And there's so many things when you're an entrepreneur, when you are your own boss, that you kind of have to figure out on your own. And so at the beginning, especially, I was super overwhelmed and everything kind of seemed very daunting,
Mhm.
because you're like, okay, due to COVID now, like what additional limitations am I going to impose upon myself? And the
Mhm.
answer is you really can't. Like, you still have to see everything as possible. And we glamorize being a leader or being a boss. And,
Mhm.
you just, if there's something that you want to do, you just have to do it. You have to learn to hold yourself accountable. Um,
Mhm.
there's a difference between being someone who's a really motivated worker, but then someone who also just shows up for themselves as well.
Mhm.
And I say this too, you don't have to be someone else's boss to be a leader. You
Mhm.
can lead from wherever you are if you're in an organization. But
Mhm.
if you're a one person show like I am, it's like
Yeah.
you are the boss and you are the leader, and nobody is going to make sure that you do everything you have to do today. And no
Mhm.
one is going to be making all of your pitches for you or your sales calls or whatever you're doing in order to secure
Mhm.
clients, in order to make a living for yourself. You have to do 100% of that work. And
Mhm.
you have to be willing to commit to doing that on a daily basis. And
Mhm.
I want to say too, like, I'm over hustle culture. I really am.
Mhm.
I get 8 hours of
Snaps.
sleep every night.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to sacrifice my mental health for anything. That was a big lesson just in life, that I've learned.
Mhm.
But becoming your own boss, it's just knowing that motivation comes in ebbs and flows. You're not going
Mhm.
to wake up every morning like super pumped, lightning bolt emoji, ready to build an empire. You're just not.
Mhm.
You're not going to feel like that every day. And that's not a bad thing. We all have
Mhm.
our different moods, and especially when the pandemic's going on,
Mhm.
it's like picking out of a hat. I don't know what mood I'm going to have today or tomorrow.
Yeah, like what's
I don't know.
who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? But the point is that you need to have enough structure for yourself and know yourself enough and trust yourself enough
Mhm.
that you will be able to have a little bit of faith in the process to get you from where you are to wherever you want to go.
Mhm. Oh, I love that. Yeah, like there has to be some structure. There has to be, you have to know the goals that you're holding yourself accountable for. I think you broke down so beautifully how, we have to be the bosses. We have to decide like this is how I'm, getting folks on sales calls. This is how I'm pitching my products and services. It's not this like, delivered to you beautiful lead list. It's like you're out there getting it. But I love that comment about like, okay, but you don't have to sacrifice anything for that. You like, I am with you on team 8 hours of sleep. Like I
Mhm.
love looking at my Fitbit every day and seeing it be like, you did so good at sleeping. Like yes, because I know that's so important. So I love bringing in that element of the mental health aspects. And with that, I'd like to ask, there are challenges that come up in entrepreneurship. People say no, things break. Instagram, what is the deal with Instagram and TikTok? Like what the audio isn't synced or like there's
Yeah.
some
It's
kind of there's just little stressors that come up in entrepreneur day-to-day life. And so, what are some of your favorite ways? You spoke a little bit about motivation earlier and kind of having that come in ebbs and flows, but how do you pull yourself out of a funk like that? Or how do you face challenges and stay motivated to keep, pushing forward?
I have a playlist for everything. So I throw on
Yes,
a
love it.
playlist and I dance in the mirror, like
Mm,
pretty much every day while I get ready.
mhm,
Um, music is something that really helps me. It can just transport you to a completely different place mentally. I think that's the
mhm,
fastest and easiest way for me to kind of get out of a funk. Dancing in general is just something I love doing. And for me, it's very complicated, like my relationship with dance too, because it runs parallel to my identity crisis of
mm,
compartmentalizing all of the different parts of me as a
mhm,
multi-passionate person, and feeling
mhm,
like, well, if I'm not pursuing it professionally, am I good enough? Or if I'm not pursuing it
mhm,
professionally, am I allowed to take up space? And
mm,
so I'm committing to making more space to just dance,
mhm,
because that's something I love to do, but that's something that always takes me to a different place. And nostalgia, literally wrote an article about how much I love watching all my old favorite movies from when I was a kid, and
mhm,
just literally anything that has to do with kind of looking at your life as this little time capsule, and
mhm.
you're able to see all of the good parts of it. And it's just a nice reminder that, like, there was one time in your life, maybe it was when you were a child, but like you just totally felt fearless. And so
Mhm.
yeah, I channel my 7-year-old self a lot.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh my gosh. That's such a powerful way to connect with yourself and kind of the longevity of life and the journey, because I imagine, you know, now you can think like, oh yeah, 7-year-old Nicole had all of these dreams and aspirations and amazing things, and like here I am as her, in the future I can make her dreams come true. That's such a cool, powerful image to imagine that. And I love, yeah, that connection with nostalgia. I enjoy seeing those things pop up on social media, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I remember my Tamagotchi," and having like an
Yes.
emotional crisis because it died, and like
Yeah.
the all the things we went through in youth. And so those are amazing ways to stay motivated. And yeah, dancing, I love that. I'm also a very musical person, and I love my Spotify whole situation, and am right there with you that like, yeah, that can super pump people up, and get you moving. So let's talk a little bit about, kind of the work that you do.
Hmm.
I'm so curious. I know, um, it's been so fun during quarantine. I think we've both gotten to kind of witness each other, finesse and come to that, like, this is what I do, this is who I am. I
Hmm.
remember the first time I heard you introduce yourself as a brand architect, and I was like, yes, I love that so much. So let's break it down for people a little bit. What are some of the things that you work with clients on? Who do you work with? Give us a little taste of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I'll start with just explaining what a brand architect is,
Hmm.
because if I'm the only one then that's a great thing. Because I was talking to a friend of mine who I have as an accountability partner, which I also think is super, super key as an entrepreneur, because I've met some people where it's kind of like they feel like they're protecting their trove of secrets. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, we're just all trying to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
We can maybe feel alone if we're solopreneurs, but it's like everyone's basically going through the same thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like I'm more of a collaborative person. And if somebody's like, what are you charging for this? Like, I will tell them. I don't really care. I think that
Mm-hmm.
since my whole mission's about like challenging the status quo, if the norm is to be taboo and like secretive about certain topics, then like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw that out the window. So,
Mm-hmm. Love
um,
that.
so yeah, brand architect, like if you think of an architect, they build things. And so what I help my clients do is kind of two different things. The first is having them set up their digital platform for success. So let's say that's a personal trainer and they were laid off by their studio, and they say, okay, I want to start my own thing, but I'm not a seasoned digital entrepreneur. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a fitness instructor. I don't really know where to start. So I help with the platforms, presence and culture and infrastructure so that they can take what was their in real life experience that was just so like unapologetically them and their vibe and translate that into the digital space. So the first part of it is, okay, how do we capture the essence of you and your personal brand in the digital format? And then the other half is virtual space either. And so basically, it's redefining the client's expectations to say, okay, here's your favorite trainer, and this is how they fit into this new fitness landscape, because the industry is very saturated. So,
Mhm.
you know, like
Wow.
people have to know where to find you, how to book you, how to stay in touch with you, the whole thing.
That's so, yeah, like I don't even know that. I mean, I think about it much. Like there's so many little pieces that go in that you can't have, like even the little after class conversations, or like
Mm-hmm.
talking to the front desk person, or all of those little things. It's super cool that you're finding ways to say, like, what is your essence? How do we continue to communicate that to people? That's such a cool offering. And then to help people build that out. I mean, I know that that branding work and, like, who you are, that's some of the most challenging work at kind of the beginning of entrepreneurship. And then also, to position yourself there and say, like, okay, yeah, you need to be like a full online business now. Like, let me help you kind of make that transition. That's a really cool kind of service to provide to people, and actually seems like pretty perfect for the sort of pandemic landscape of helping people make those transitions. That's super cool. So,
Thanks.
you know, I also believe kind of that leadership, and how we become leaders and how we get to that place of, being our own boss, like we talked about earlier, that really is kind of the culmination of our day-to-day tasks and how we choose to show up for ourselves in all the little ways throughout the day. So I'm curious about, for you as the person in charge of this business and helping people in this way, what are some of the non-negotiables in your day? Like, are there any things that you just know you need, that you kind of structure around?
Yes, sleeping, back to
Uh-huh.
sleep.
Love it.
I can't tell you a time during the pandemic when I didn't get my full, actually, even when I worked in corporate, I always got 8 hours of sleep, even if I was like going nonstop from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Always get my full night's sleep, because I truly believe that if you didn't do something today, then one, it either wasn't that important and you can do it tomorrow, or B, I don't remember if I said A or one, but the point is the next thing is that if you didn't do it today, you have to, it wasn't important enough to you. So you have to be willing to expect or accept the consequences of not having done that thing the next day. So anyway, that's the point of why I love sleeping and I will defend sleeping. Next is movement. Like I have to move my body in some way, whether that's a workout or walking around. Um, just makes me feel good. And I'm just saying intuitive eating because it's something that's widely recognized by people, but I in no way mean for that to be any kind of like diet or structure or
Mm-hmm.
anything. Intuitive eating to me simply means feeling like I'm nourishing myself with whatever I
Mm-hmm.
need. That means no particular food groups, no times of day, no anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and water. I drink like at least a half a gallon of water every day
Wow.
because
Awesome.
you just it actually keeps you more awake. Oh, I drink a lot of coffee too, but like it
Mm-hmm.
keeps you more awake than coffee does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. I've been upping my water intake recently, and you're right. I do just feel, I don't know. It's like I feel so much more energized throughout the day. But those are such great suggestions of, and it really sounds a lot like they're ways that you're connecting with kind of your physical self. You're
Mhm.
connecting to, movement. You're connecting to the nourishing that you're doing, the water that you're drinking, all of those things, and also the sleep, and making sure that you're, functioning at your best. And so I love that. It's like you're taking care of your physical form, and the part of you that like does the typing and does the talking and does all of that. And that allows you to be so supported in your creative endeavors and in kind of your intuitive connections and all of the sort of inner things. There's a really cool kind of connection there. So I would love to just kind of wrap up and finish off. First, is there anything that you feel like we haven't talked on that you're just like dying to let people know? And then we'll talk a little bit about how people can find you. So any final words of wisdom that you want to share with folks?
I thought about one more non-negotiable, and that
Mm-hmm.
is speaking kindly to yourself. I think
Mm,
that that one is a little bit harder to do maybe than the physical maintenance, but I feel like
mm,
my physical, mental, and emotional health run on such close tracks, um,
mm-hmm,
that I can't just focus on one, but at the same
mm-hmm,
time, with having a strong sense of intuition, if something physically is off, then it throws off my focus and everything. So,
mm,
being
mm-hmm,
kind to yourself is so
mm-hmm,
important, especially
mm-hmm,
as the leader of your own ship, because
mm-hmm.
someone has to be advocating for you, and that someone is you.
Yeah. Oh, such a good reminder. Like you gotta, I think of that a lot in terms of myself. I have kind of a view of myself, like you mentioned earlier, as like boss and employee. I often think of myself as like, how am I managing myself? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, you're right. It's up to us. Like, we don't have a manager checking in on how burnt out we are, or if we, we're repeatedly missing a deadline or anything like that. So it's really up to us to kind of be our own managers in that way and check in on those things. I love that. And also, yeah, that piece of being kind to yourself and acknowledging like, does this feel in alignment with what I want to do? Am I like, you know, chasing a should? Am I like, doing something that I isn't the right fit? All of that. So yes, I love that advice of just, be kind to yourself, pay attention, have some awareness of how you're doing and checking in with yourself. That's amazing. Well, this has been wonderful. How can folks stay connected to you? Where can we find you online?
Yeah. So Nicole Tremaglio is my name. So that's
Mhm.
literally where you can find me everywhere on Instagram. I love my TikTok. You can find me there. And then my website is NicoleTremaglio.com. And then from
Amazing.
there, you can find a little bit more about me, and then also a little bit more in depth about the services that I offer in
Mhm.
case that speaks to you. And
Mhm.
yeah, my newsletter that goes out every Tuesday. That's available on the site as
Mhm.
well to sign up there. And that's kind of where I talk about my journey as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, from a little bit more of an introspective
Mhm.
viewpoint, as well as
Mhm.
just like fun things going on in fitness and lifestyle. And of course, the community spotlight, because people around us are doing amazing things all the time.
So true.
Mhm.
Amazing. Yes. And I love those newsletters. It's always when I see it pop up on Tuesday, Real Talk, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, let's get into it. Real Talk with Nicole. Like, what's going
Mhm.
on? It's awesome. Well, everyone, I highly recommend that you go check out Nicole's social presence. Her reels and TikToks are phenomenal. I feel like I'm getting to know the fitness industry and trends and what's going on. And like, I feel personally connected to berries at this
Oh
point
my
because
God,
I
my
know
favorite.
I know that you are like a berries to the end. Like that is you are tribe berries. I love that. But yeah, it's just been so delightful to connect today and to have this conversation. And listeners, I invite you to let us know what you thought. You can find both of us on Instagram. And of course, like and review the show. Or if you're catching us on YouTube, feel free to drop a comment. But Nicole, Nicole, this has been phenomenal. And I thank you so much for joining us. And we will catch you all next week.